LSU. I said they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the back.
TA! Welcome back to the Tigers Avenue show. It's another, Zach, Victory Monday for the LSU Tigers. And a big one. I mean, this was a big one. Regardless of what everybody says, this was a huge win following the Ole Miss victory. LSU Tigers go in to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and take care of business. Zach, in a way that LSU has not won a game in a long time. They won this game. They won this game, Zach. I mean, really opposite of how they've been winning games the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really looking forward to breaking that down, looking at that. Zach, we got to talk around college football. Zach, there's one particular team that I want to talk about. One particular team that may surprise you.
Okay.
It's not an SEC team, but there is a team that everybody in college football needs to be on notice about.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Got to talk about.
Let me hold on. Let me see if I can send it in the private chat.
Yeah, send me in the private chat. I'll confirm. Absolutely.
I was right.
Yes. So we'll talk about that team. But Zach, I also want to talk about because we're going to talk about the playoff picture. I also want to talk about when we go around college football, the SEC standings.
Yeah.
And how that may shake up because, buddy, I mean, things are getting shook up this year in the SEC. Everybody's beating everybody, and it's very interesting. And LSU has an amazing opportunity in the midst of all this because we keep winning.
Yeah.
And we're improving. And I'm just, man, LSU is in an amazing spot right now. If they can go take care of business this weekend, they can really solidify where they are in this season. Yeah. And if you win this weekend, you can really solidify some postseason things. It's just, man, you control your own destiny, and we'll talk about all that. Zach, real quick, though, it's been a couple weeks. I got to give my guys a shout-out again. The boys of Itawamba High School, Zach, 52-0.
I saw that. I did.
2-0 against Ripley, a division game Friday night, really securing a playoff spot, almost securing a playoff game host at home, and a huge game this weekend at Shannon for the division title. It's a huge game. So,
wow.
The boys in Itawamba are balling out. 52 points. Zach, I kid you not. I have never in my life seen this. Never in my life. We went to halftime, up 35-0. Ripley was getting the ball to start the half. I kid you not, they trotted their JV offense onto the field. I kid you not.
They gave up.
They waved the white flag. They literally trotted out an entirely different 11 players on offense.
At half.
At the beginning of the second half.
Wow. To wave the white flag at the beginning of the second half, that's pretty wild.
Never in my life have I seen it.
Especially a losing team. That's
I
crazy.
mean, I can only imagine what was said in the locker room at halftime. I can only fathom it. I'm glad I was not in Ripley's locker room. Okay, I was glad to be in the Itawamba locker room on halftime on Friday night. But shout out to my guys; they balled out. Cooper again, Caden, Keyshawn, Xavier, all those guys. Our defense balled out. I mean, obviously they pitched a shutout. Our defense has been fantastic all year long. Just so proud of them. Man, even our special teams was making great plays. All three phases was phenomenal, and just proud of all those guys and the hard work they put in and the growth that I've seen out of them. So shout out to my guys at Itawamba. With that being said, Zach, LSU versus Arkansas, a game, Zach, that we all said, and it was, nobody was wrong in saying this, that it was the epitome of a trap game.
Yeah.
It was the exact opposite of what you had against Ole Miss. All the intangibles against Ole Miss were in your favor. All the intangibles against Arkansas were not in your favor. It was literally the exact opposite. Ole Miss had come off of back to what was going to be here in Death Valley, back-to-back SEC road games. They had already played back-to-back SEC games. They did play Kentucky at home. They lose the game to Kentucky. They go to South Carolina. They take care of business against South Carolina, but they get banged up on the road in the SEC. Again, have to go on the road in Death Valley, banged up, coming into that game, 7 straight games, and LSU was coming off of a bye game. And it was nighttime. It was in Death Valley. Everything was in your favor, and it played out the way a lot of people thought it would. You know, I saw a lot of people picking LSU. We thought Ole Miss would win. Let's be real. They probably should have won the game. But you made the plays to keep yourself alive. The defense made the plays to keep Ole Miss out of the end zone, and that kept you in this game. You didn't lead a single second, and you won it in overtime.
Yeah.
On a walk-off touchdown. Because of all those intangibles.
Yep.
You look at this Arkansas game, it's the exact opposite. LSU's coming off an emotional win. Arkansas is coming off a bye week. It's a night game. It's in Fayetteville. Fayetteville is going to be absolutely slammed. It was. They're coming off a top 10 win 2 weeks ago. The fans are on a high, right? All of the things. You had been banged up a little bit with, receivers and linebackers, like a couple different things. And so it looked like, okay, this could be a letdown spot for LSU. And for 3 straight years, this game has been won by 3 points or less.
Yeah.
And we were all expecting for history to repeat itself. Praise God. It did not. LSU, and I love, Zach, and I'm going to let you get into the details of the game. I love the way Brian Kelly addresses each week. We have to think about this the right way. We have to think about it the right way, right? We've got 24 hours to celebrate this Ole Miss win, and then we're on Arkansas, and we're thinking about it the right way, right? And they thought about this game the right way. They did not allow the emotions of the Ole Miss game to roll over and there be a letdown in Fayetteville. I'm right there with you, Zach. I was nervous as all get out about this game. I really thought LSU was going to walk in there and lose. Man, they were ready to roll, and they played in a way that I have not seen LSU play in a very long time. And Zach, I want to highlight, before we talk about anything, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I want to highlight it with the biggest highlighter you got. The brightest, most neon, most yellow highlighter, and circle it with a red Sharpie.
A purple Sharpie.
A purple Sharpie. the final drive of this game for LSU, I guess technically not the final drive, but the drive that put the nail in the coffin, buddy, LSU ain't done that in a long time. A long time. I'll hold off on the statistics of that drive, but that drive was telling about this LSU team.
Yeah.
There's other things we've got to highlight, like how Whitweeks should probably win the Heisman, right? I'm kidding, of course. But there's other things you got to highlight like that.
Yeah.
But, man, that last drive that put this game away was amazing. Zach, with that being said, it was the opposite of what everybody thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
In Tigers' favor. What is your thoughts of this game? LSU wins 34-10 in Fayetteville.
Well, LSU set the tone very early, very first drive of the game, to be able to go 75 yards and overcome adversity with the penalties that they had faced in that first drive to cap it off with a 22-yard touchdown run by Caden Durham. That was a statement. And when you look at it, you're like, this is what Brian Kelly has been trying to do when he's taking the ball first, right? And I'm with you. I'm with you. You should always defer, right? But this is what Brian Kelly has been trying to do with his offense. Go take the ball down the field, first drive, get an early lead, and make them play from behind to start the game. And that's exactly what LSU did. But this time, it was because Arkansas won the toss and they deferred. So that's why you got the ball. So I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
That's fine.
If you don't win the toss and you get the ball first, go score.
That's
go
right.
Score the first drive and set the tone, right? Because you obviously, if you win the toss, you should defer. Your defense got to stop, and then you go set the tone, right?
That's the gospel truth. Amen.
Amen. But LSU did exactly what they needed to in this game. They didn't go 3 and out. They didn't, have a really difficult drive where it was frustrating. I mean, we think about the Ole Miss game, it was frustrating, especially the first couple of drives for LSU because they just couldn't get nothing going offensively, and it was complete opposite of this game. LSU marched right down the field. They had to overcome the 2 penalties, which obviously we'll talk about the penalties because they were extremely frustrating. But they overcame 2 penalties, and they were able to score on Caden Durham's 22-yard touchdown, which was absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, made a diving play there at the pylon to be able to get in and erased all of the fear in LSU fans that, oh, no, we're going to kick a field goal here after having a really good starting drive. So LSU
literally
scored.
had a touchdown taken off the board.
Correct. So LSU scores, take a 7-0 lead, get the ball back. Your defense gets a stop after Arkansas got the ball on their first drive. Your defense gets a stop. LSU goes right down the field again. The only issue in this game was that after you had that first touchdown drive and you scored 7, your offense did struggle a little bit to be able to finish off drives. I mean, you had 4 field goals. And that's why Damian Ramos won Special Teams Player of the Week because he nailed 4 field goals.
That's right.
Kind of reminded me a little bit of the Georgia game in 2018, a little bit, where you just kind of like you were dominating the game, but you weren't like super comfortable because you just kept kicking field goals. But because your defense was so good, those field goals just really put the pressure on Arkansas. And so for Damian Ramos to go 4 for 4 and execute on all those field goals to give LSU the cushion that they needed when in a game where your defense played phenomenal. Yep. I mean, I think we can both say that this was LSU's best defensive game of the year so far.
Absolutely.
Easily. Arkansas only scored twice on the touchdown there after LSU went up 13-0, and then on the field goal on the following drive. So literally they had back-to-back drives where they scored a touchdown, kicked a long field goal, and that's it. I know they did have the missed field goal earlier in the game, but on the 2 drives they scored, they're back-to-back. Outside of that, your defense was phenomenal. They wreaked havoc. They forced 2 fumbles, and then obviously the play that ended the game, right?
Absolutely.
So LSU jumped up early.
Absolutely.
They made it 13. They made it 13-0. Arkansas goes right down the field, scores a touchdown, makes it 13-7. LSU answers with a field goal. You would have preferred a touchdown there to answer the touchdown by Arkansas, but LSU does get points and does answer with a field goal to make it 16-7. Arkansas kicks a field goal. Great stand by the defense to keep them out of range. LSU has to punt, and this is where you got nervous. This is where LSU fans got nervous. Arkansas has the ball with 5 or so minutes to go in the first quarter, or excuse me, in the first half, and they're only down 6. If Arkansas puts together a drive there and goes and scores a touchdown, then you're looking at a potential 2-for-1 situation, depending on how long they make that drive last, and they go into halftime up 1 with a chance to score out of half, right? So you're in a dangerous situation there with just over 5 minutes to go there in the first half of the second quarter. And what does Whitweeks do? Whitweeks calls game. He calls game. Very first play of the drive, Taylor Green drops back to pass. Whitweeks is on a blitz, jumps up, bats the ball in the air. Very Tyrann Mathieu-esque against West Virginia. I mean, even LSU football, they posted it today on their social medias. And as soon as that happened, I think all of our minds went back to that play that Tyrann Mathieu made against West Virginia, and he did it against Florida as well.
That's right.
He did it against Florida as well. So, like, everybody's mind just went back to, man, that play that Tyrann made. Yeah, deja vu.
We may
right?
have to make another post.
We may have to make another deja vu post. but here's the thing: LSU football kind of already did it, so we might have to let LSU football have their moment. We're not just let them have their moment. But anyways, Whitweeks calls game, jumps up, bats the ball in the air, lands, and is able to locate the ball in the air, catch it with one hand, secure it, and reach out and almost get the touchdown. I was really hoping he's going to get the touchdown, but just like Tyrann Mathieu, down at the 1.
Yeah. And
obviously the drive is finished off there on the first play with a run by Caden Durham, and that was the game. That was the ball game. LSU's defense continued to put pressure on. LSU's offense continued to move the ball. And that was really the rest of the game, was that play right there. The second half was completely dominated by LSU. LSU's defense held Arkansas to under 100 yards rushing, which was really, really, really encouraging as an LSU fan, because obviously they've struggled a little bit at times with the rushing attack. But here's 2 weeks in a row now. I know they had the 50-yarder. Ole Miss had the 50-yarder with Ulysses Bentley last week. But here's 2 weeks in a row now where you've seen really good defensive performances going up against the rushing attack. And so let's see if LSU can continue it next week against a really good running back and Le'Veon Moss at Texas A&M. But really, Reagan, I mean, after that play, the game was over. It really was. It was. At that point, it really got to a point where all LSU fans they relaxed. Like, at that, I don't know about you, but at that point, I was like chilling. Like, I was chilling. Last week I told you I couldn't eat my Chick-fil-A. Like, I did not eat at all. I didn't eat before the game. I didn't eat during the game. And I ate a little bit after the game. This week, dude, halftime, and especially at halftime, bro, I was eating my Chick-fil-A, man. Like, it was nothing. No problem. Eating my Chick-fil-A. Drinking my sweet tea, eating the waffle fries, and eating that delicious honey pimento cheese chicken sandwich that Chick-fil-A so wonderfully made. So I was chilling, Reagan. I was chilling. It was a huge game for LSU. Exactly what the doctor ordered for this Tiger team. You definitely did not want to be, super stressed out about, and deal with a game similar to last week, especially heading into the game that you have this weekend versus Texas A&M and College Station. So to be able, Reagan, they put in the backups. They literally put in the backups in this game. So you were able to rest some of your guys a little bit,
and they made
not risk any injury. Yeah, you had Devon Keys that made a play there near the end of the game, fumble recovery.
Yep.
Yeah, so just a really great game.
Popped it out. Yep.
Yeah. So just a very encouraging game for LSU. I was so excited to see, and I think honestly, Reagan, like, yes, LSU when LSU beat Ole Miss, it was like LSU fans were like, okay, like they're legit. Maybe they can make a run now.
Yeah.
I feel like this game made LSU fans really begin to question the potential for this team as far as postseason goes.
Right.
Like, I think LSU fans really started having the conversation of, hey, we can make the 12-team playoff. Like, and because of what happened this weekend, I know you have a big weekend coming up against Texas A&M, but because of what happened this weekend against Arkansas and how it looked, it makes LSU fans very encouraged to say that LSU has a very realistic chance to make it to the SEC championship, and not just the SEC championship, but the college football playoff. I know there's a lot of games left. You still got 5 games left on your schedule, but when we break it down for you here in a little bit, it's going to begin. Your eyes are going to begin to open to see how realistic it is for this LSU team to accomplish what they want to accomplish.
Yeah, there's no question. There's no question about it. In fact, what I was going to say, that what was the funny thing about Whitweek's interception is Taylon Green really kept the ball in the air for Whitweeks to make the play. When the ball was batted, Taylon turned around and tried to pull it down himself and batted it back up for Whit to come down with it. I mean, it was headed for the ground, brother.
It would have been a better idea for him to just
smack it down, brother. Yeah, and this defensive here's the reality, Zach. Like you were just saying, for LSU fans and Zach, really now the college football world, all of the college football personalities are looking at LSU now going, oh, their defense is serious. Like, it's for real. Because if you want me to be honest, Zach, the defense showed major change and improvement starting with South Alabama. That's really when it started.
Yeah.
But everybody goes, oh, it's South Alabama. Okay, that's fine. But we were talking about going into that game, the fact that South Alabama had just scored 135 points the previous 2 weeks. And how they have this freshman phenom and this quarterback who can run all over the place, Fluff Bothwell, and I can't remember the quarterback's name, but how great they are, right? And LSU holds them to 10 points. And
Gio Lopez was the quarterback.
Correct. Lopez. Yeah. So, like, it started there. And in our minds, it was like, I was in Death Valley. It was South Alabama. Okay, right? And then you go to Ole Miss and you squeak it out, right, against Ole Miss. And we've watched Whitweeks make plays, so he made plays, and we were like, okay, that was awesome. And even Braden Swinson made plays, and that was awesome. And so it was kind of like still, it's like, but Ole Miss was banged up. Trey Harris sat out of like maybe the fourth quarter. And, all of those things, the intangibles, right? It's in Death Valley. The crowd is hyped, so they're hyped. How are they going to play when they have to go on the road in Fayetteville in a hostile environment, coming off an emotional win? And exactly what you said, Zach, they played better than they have in the last 2 years. It was the best defensive performance, and that was the defining moment. It's like, okay, these others weren't just flukes, right? Okay, really stopping South Alabama may have been something. Stopping Ole Miss and what they did, it was for real. It wasn't just the hype, right? That helps. But they just went into Fayetteville after Arkansas had knocked off Tennessee, a premier offense, right? Knocked them off in that stadium, and LSU goes in there and blanks. Not shuts them out, but blanks what they do so well, right? What was the one thing that old Arkansas could do offensively very well? Run the ball.
Yeah.
LSU held Arkansas to 38 yards rushing. 38.
Yeah, that's wild.
You made them one-dimensional. And guess what? As LSU has done all year, they've played well over the top. They haven't given up the big throws. So what did Arkansas have to do all night? They had to throw across the field, dump it down, short to medium,
Over the middle. Yep.
over the middle to Andrew Armstrong. That's what you saw over and over.
That's all that they could do.
Correct. You made them one-dimensional, and they were successful at it, but it's only going to last so long.
Yeah.
It was only going to last so long when you're that one-dimensional because the run game wasn't happening at all. They averaged 2 yards a carry. Like, we zilched it, shut it down. Taylor Green, for the most part, was contained.
Yep.
He full go, played the whole game. And they dunked it off to, Armstrong a couple times. And they got you a couple times with that. But in reality, they only had that because that's what we were giving them. That's what we were giving them, so they were taking that.
Correct.
It was only going to last so long. And they only put up 277 yards of offense, not even 300 yards of offense on the night for Arkansas.
When's the last time you saw
in their own stadium?
LSU's defense do that against an SEC team?
Correct. It was a phenomenal performance, Zach. A phenomenal performance. And yet again, Whit Weeks does what he does. Just highlights and everywhere. 10 tackles on the game. An interception. A pass breakup. Like all of the things, right? He's just flying around. Like you said, it feels like Perkins' freshman year. It feels Honey Badger-esque that he is just disrupting everything they stinking do. And we need that to continue. We need it to continue. Whit Weeks is a problem, and we need that for the rest of the season. He's been amazing. He leads the SEC, Zach, in tackles. I'm just astonished by the rise of Whit Weeks. We saw flashes of it last year.
Well, even now, you think, after you lost Harold Perkins, we discussed this, after you lost Harold Perkins, you were going, okay, you got Brandon Swinson, but now teams are really going to have to, teams will be able to plan for him because they're not as worried about Perkins now. Well, now you got to worry about Whit Weeks.
Yep.
So it's going to open the lane again, as we said, losing Perkins and them honing in on Braden Swinson is going to open the door for somebody else to have really good games. And it's been Whit Weeks.
Yep.
Well, now teams are very aware. We have to plan for Whit Weeks. We have to scheme around Whit Weeks. So what's it going to do? It's going to open up opportunities. It becomes a math game in the same way that it was a math game against Harold Perkins. It becomes a math game. So now is Braden Swinson going to get more opportunities because teams are going to have to plan and scheme around Whit Weeks? Is Savion Jones? I mean, Greg Penn, you're going to because of Whit's outstanding play, it's going to give other players more opportunities to make plays.
Yep.
And so the emergence of Whit Weeks has been huge because let's just say Whit Weeks, doesn't do what he's been doing recently. Well, then teams are able to focus in on Braden Swinson. They're not worried about Whit Weeks, and they're able to do a lot more to you defensively than you would like. But because Whit Weeks has done what he's done, teams have been very limited on what they can do against this defense, and it's helping the guys on the back end. The play from the defensive line and the play from the linebackers has tremendously helped the guys on the back end because they have continuously caused chaos and put pressure on the quarterback, and they have stuffed the run. So this front seven has been phenomenal this year. They have played over expectations. They've played over expectations. And so now you look at this team and you go, can we make a run? Yes, you can, because this team's only going to get better. This team's only going to get better defensively as they continue to gel. And the secondary is going to continue to get better as they continue to grow and develop and gel with each other. It really is, Reagan, an encouraging turnaround from last year.
Zach, so let me kind of – so you think about this, Zach. The only loss of the season you have is USC. And think about this for a second. Will Weeks has been playing every snap for you on defense. Will Weeks only played 42 snaps against USC. I think it was a little more than half of the defensive staff. So you think about the percentage of snaps he was out of that USC game and potentially how much he could have more affected that game. Only 42. That's a lot of plays he's sitting out. A lot. You think about the secondary, right? This is a new staff trying to figure out their personnel in the first game of the season.
Yeah.
Where they're trusting their veteran
Who's best
guys.
where?
You know, we're trusting veteran guys. Zy Alexander wasn't there. So we're going to put Sage Ryan at boundary corner because he's just a veteran guy. He's got games. We don't know.
Jordan Allen was in the backfield.
Jordan Allen's back there. Absolutely. So now you look at it and you're going and Zach, let's be honest, Harold Perkins was out of place too. Let's be real about that. He was not where he is most effective. So you got guys playing out of place, and you've got guys playing out of necessity in positions they're not best at. And for several games, Zach, we're rotating guys. Who's going to be the best? The staff, the defensive staff, is finding out who's going to be our guys. Guess what? Zy Alexander's back. You know, Whit Weeks is in every single snap now. Sage Ryan gets to move back to safety. Major Burns now gets to play the star role. He gets to play closer to the line of scrimmage. He's better there. He's not better in the backfield where Jordan Gilbert and Sage Ryan are so good. I love you, buddy.
Love you.
You want to sleep?
Yeah.
You tell him go Tigers?
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. You tell Zach night-night? I love you,
Love you, buddy.
Love you.
You have good sleep, okay?
Okay.
Love you, bud. All of those things, right? We were rotating guys. And then after the bye week, going to the Ole Miss game, Brian Kelly flat told you the rotation is going to end. And since then, against Ole Miss, against Arkansas, the guys have been the guys. Zy Alexander, Ashton Stamp at boundary corner, Greg Penn, Whit Weeks. Those are your guys at linebacker. You've got Savion Jones. You've got Braden Swinson coming off the edge. You've got Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley and Gio Paez and Paris Shand, kind of the rotational guys in the middle. And you've got Sage Ryan and Jordan Gilbert with Major Burns at the star in the back, right, playing the safety positions. And they're all really in their natural positions, and they're staying in the game.
Yeah.
And it is creating better continuity, better communication. Guys are where they are supposed to be naturally. Zach, as much crap as we gave Sage Ryan, all LSU fans have given Sage Ryan over the years. Sage Ryan probably played his best game on Saturday night as a Tiger. If I remember correctly, he was your second highest rated player on the team. Sage Ryan, I think, personally, is going to get better and better. This defense is gelling. This defense is improving. This defense has continuity, and the guys are where they are supposed to be. And like you said, Zach, it's just going to get better and better. I am thrilled about the job this defensive staff. Zach, it justifies what we did hiring these guys. Going out, paying $10 million to overhaul the staff and get these guys in, it justifies it, and it's paying off.
For sure.
What you invested in this defensive staff is paying off. It's paying dividends, and I'm thrilled about it. I'm thrilled about the future, I'm thrilled about the prospects that we're bringing in the future. I'm thrilled about right now the progress, the immense progress that we've seen from USC to that Arkansas game has been awesome, Zach. It's been awesome.
For
So,
sure.
tip of the cap to this defensive staff.
Keep it up.
Lastly and finally, for my recap, Zach, you punctuate the game. Zach, Garrett Nussmeier didn't throw a touchdown pass. He didn't throw a touchdown pass. Was he good? Absolutely. He was very efficient. He was very efficient. But you ran the ball really stinking well.
Yes. Yep.
You improved on your run game. Caden Durham has stepped up, has become the guy, not even playing 100%, by the way. Probably playing about 85%, according to Brian Kelly and his press conference today. Goes out 101 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, big game from him.
Huge. On the game, you had 160 yards rushing.
Caleb Jackson looked pretty good too in his few carries.
Absolutely, he did. Caleb Jackson looked very sturdy in his few carries. We need to see that continue. If LSU is going to start figuring out their run game, we can throw the ball. We know that. We can throw the ball. If we figure out a run game too and build on that, and our defense is improving,
better watch out.
Buddy, that is why we're sitting here today going, beating Ole Miss, turning around and proving to everybody we're not going to fall in the trap, and beating Arkansas the way you did, man, it is very, very encouraging about this team, about what is ahead. It's awesome. And man, it's going to be a tough game in Kyle Field, but if you pull off that win in Kyle Field, buddy, you control your own destiny. You control your own destiny. That's where you're at because you have improved so drastically. It's you and A&M for the top spot in the SEC this weekend. Isn't that awesome? I mean, that's amazing.
That's crazy. I don't think anybody be saying that at this point in the season. Whenever LSU and A&M play, they'll be playing for the top spot in the SEC.
A top 15 matchup for the top spot in the SEC. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
It's going to be awesome. And so, Zach, with that being said, I think that's a good kind of transition point here to talk about the college football world because, again, I mean, Zach, this college football season has been week after week just I mean, it feels so 2007, Zach. It feels so 2007. I mean, Georgia, who loses to Alabama, Texas looks like the premier team. They look like they are it. Georgia goes to Austin, Texas, and handles the Longhorns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dominates them. And if it wasn't for the horrendous job of the officials, Texas might not even score 15 points.
Yeah.
Because that's where they score, right? I mean, I could talk about that all night, Zach. The fact that because fans threw trash on the field, a call got overturned.
Yeah, that was wild.
How unbelievable is that?
I don't know how you can do that, but
Zach, they had made the call. Zach, they reset the ball.
Yeah.
Fans begin to throw trash on the field, and they overturn the call. That was unbelievable.
But you can't even do that.
The circumstances brought it about. I mean, you can discuss and wave a flag off. I don't know if they can do what they did. I mean, it's a judgment call. I mean, I don't know. I'd love to hear an official rule on that. Like if that was insane. Absolutely insane. But, Zach, the Dogs go and knock off Texas. So now the only 2 undefeated teams in the league is LSU and A&M.
Yeah.
And so now they're playing for the top spot in the SEC on Saturday night in Kyle Field. Alabama, back-to-back trips to Knoxville. Again, the Tide lose in Neyland Stadium. Josh Heupel and the Volunteers, who have just lost to Arkansas in Fayetteville. Well, this season is so insane, Zach. It's unbelievable, and it can get even crazier. I'm about to lay a scenario out for y'all that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So Zach, I mean, by the way, Jalen Milroe looked horrible. Looked horrible.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
End up going ham on us.
I'm saying this game. I'm not saying the guy is a terrible quarterback. Okay, I do think he's a bit overrated, but he's not a horrible quarterback. He has amazing athletic ability, and he can really let it happen. I mean, we saw it against Georgia, his athletic ability. We saw it. They have Ryan Williams. They can make things happen. Their defense has their secondary has some issues, but their front seven is stout. Like, Alabama's a good team, a good team. The reality is, though, they do not have literally the greatest football head coach of all time anymore.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
They're normal now.
They are just like everybody else now.
Yeah.
Do they have a great coach? Yes, I think Kalen DeBoer is going to be a great coach, Zach. I think he is a great coach. But he's not freaking Nick Saban. And they go and they lose to Tennessee. Zach, that's their second loss on their season. It's their second loss in the conference. Alabama is essentially out of the SEC race. They're essentially done, and we're not even in November. This is the first 2-loss Bama team before November since before Nick Saban. Since Nick Saban's first year. Did I say that right? Yeah, Saban's first year.
Since Nick Saban's first year, 2007.
They have not had 2 losses before November since Nick Saban's first season. And it's year 1 for Kalen DeBoer. Buckle up, buddy. I'm praying for you. Like, golly, you know those fans are ready to hang him already. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew it, too. Yeah. You don't want to be the guy after the guy. You don't want to be the guy after the guy.
You're right, though. There was a lot of really good games this weekend. You know, you outside the conference, you also had Miami and Louisville. Miami escapes against an unranked opponent again. So, you know, that game was really, really tight. Back into the conference, Missouri had to survive against Auburn at home. They were playing at home. Illinois beats Michigan. So maybe, and we mentioned it, Reagan. We said that game will help Vanderbilt get ranked this week. It will, and it did. Vanderbilt now ranked 25th in the country. How about that?
Yep.
A&M, Mississippi State. Speaking of opponents down the road, A&M, Mississippi State, very close.
Yep.
Very close. All game, but A&M able to pull away. They really had a big third quarter that was able to help them. Yep. But A&M escapes Mississippi State on the road. So just a lot of really, really good games. Obviously, you mentioned the Georgia and Texas game, but you know, the A&M State game, the Michigan Illinois game, and then obviously Missouri against Auburn and Miami or Louisville. You know, outside of the 2 big ones that we discussed, you know, those were some other games around college football that were intriguing. And so, yeah, it's really been a crazy year of college football, and we're only halfway out. So we're going to have to wait to see, you know, what the rest of this college football season details, Reagan. And, you know, you hope that LSU isn't, you know, a part of that craziness. You know, hope LSU can kind of, you know, hang on here with 5 games left to go. Certainly there is some landmines along the way, Reagan. You know, Texas A&M's obvious, but like you hosting Bama, having to
Yep.
go to Florida. I think LSU will be safe hosting Vanderbilt. If you're going to Vanderbilt, that gets a little sketchy. But I think having Vanderbilt at home and having Oklahoma at home, I think you're safe with those two games. So you really got to hope that in these next three games, if you're able to win these, you're really talking about being in the SEC championship. So Reagan, let's discuss that. I know you want to get into that. I know you want to talk about scenarios, Reagan, and there is some wild ones. Not wild in the fact that they're unrealistic, because they are very realistic.
Wild because it is realistic.
Yeah. It's wild because it is realistic.
Yeah.
Exactly your point. So Reagan, why don't you discuss some of those scenarios here with LSU and the SEC potentially making the SEC championship, and who they could face in the SEC championship if they do indeed make it to the SEC championship.
So number one, the last team I wanted to point out is Indiana, by the way. 7-0. That's the team I was mentioning at the beginning.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be on notice about in the Big Ten.
I want to see those.
Because Nebraska is not a bad team. And Indiana beat Nebraska 56-7. And they're 7-0, undefeated, and they don't look to slow down anytime soon.
Washington at home, go to Michigan State, host Michigan.
Yep.
To Ohio State.
Buddy.
Host Purdue. You got tough back-to-back weeks. You got tough back-to-back weeks with Michigan and Ohio State. Well, you get a bye between them. You get a bye between those two games.
Yeah.
But you do have two tough back-to-back games, hosting Michigan and going to Ohio State.
Well, I don't think Michigan's any good. I think they'll beat them. I seriously think,
and with it being at home,
right? I seriously think Indiana could legitimately be 11-1 and find themselves in the playoffs,
or undefeated, yeah,
or undefeated, and Big Ten champion, top 4 seed. I mean, could you imagine that? Or they lose
as the Big Ten champion,
or they lose to Big Oregon and they're like the 6-7 seed. I mean, it's unbelievable. That's the coach from James Madison that had James Madison playing out of their mind a couple of years ago. It's his first year. It is his first year at Indiana. Like, the dude is a great coach. Anyways, like that is something to watch. Indiana is playing amazing football.
He ain't gonna be there long if he keeps it up.
No. So with that being said, because we got to hurry, we got 10 minutes. The scenario, y'all, the scenarios that could play out for the SEC championship, and I'm only going to address it from an LSU perspective because obviously. So let's say LSU wins out and they're in the SEC championship. Let's do that hypothetical. There are some crazy scenarios that you could play out. Number one, you could be playing A&M again for the SEC championship. If A&M loses to LSU this weekend and then wins out, they could easily be in the SEC championship. Easily. If Georgia stumbles in Oxford, right? If Georgia stumbles in Oxford, they would end up being in the – and then let's say Georgia beats Tennessee. That would put A&M in the SEC championship because they would have the head-to-head against Missouri. Here's another incredible scenario. LSU playing Missouri in the SEC championship. Now, this is a lot that's got to happen. It's a lot that's got to happen. But I don't think it's unfathomable, okay? I don't think it's unfathomable. Here's the first thing. LSU wins out. They're in the SEC championship. Missouri has one loss to A&M. So they have the head-to-head against Missouri. Let's say A&M loses LSU this weekend. That's their first. And they go to South Carolina next week and drop another. That's their second. That would put them behind Missouri. Let's say Georgia loses. Georgia loses to Ole Miss. Ole Miss beats Georgia. Then Georgia beats Tennessee. Okay? That all favors That gets A&M, that gets Georgia, that gets Tennessee, all out of the way. Well, what about Texas? Well, there's Texas A&M at the end of the season playing Texas at Kyle Field. If Ole Miss beats Georgia, Georgia beats Tennessee, A&M loses to South Carolina after losing to LSU, and then A&M beats Texas, it will be an LSU versus Missouri SEC championship if they win.
Yeah.
Here's the reality. I don't think it will play out that way. I mean, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, A&M, LSU, they all have a chance. They all have a chance. It is going to be a race to the finish. I mean, that loss to Georgia really Texas's loss to Georgia really mixed things up in the SEC.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of after this weekend, let's say
A lot of 1 and 2 loss teams.
A lot of 1-loss SEC teams
Yeah.
for the final 4 weeks of SEC football. I mean, it's going to be a race to the finish. And it's a race, Zach, that honestly I think favors LSU being in the SEC championship. If LSU goes and takes care of business, that's what I'm saying. If we win this game, you put yourself in the top spot of the SEC with a favorable schedule down the stretch. If you win against A&M, you're the top spot, and you play 3 of your 4 games remaining at home. At home. The only road you have to go, the only game you have to go on the road for is Florida at the Swamp, which is not easy. But we all know that Florida right now is a very vulnerable team, a very beatable team. I'm not just looking past them, but we all know that seat is hot in Florida. And things aren't looking good in Florida. Things are looking really good at LSU right now. They're a very put-together team. The team in Florida is not. So it is a very, very favorable schedule for LSU. If you go win on Saturday, you put yourself in the driver's seat, literally the number 1 spot in the league.
Yeah. Yep.
So Zach, it could play out a lot of different ways. I mean, it could be LSU Georgia, it could be LSU Texas, it could be LSU Texas A&M, it could be LSU Tennessee, it could be LSU Missouri. Like, there's a lot of ways it can play out. Now, LSU's got to go win those games, right, for it to be LSU. It could shake up. You could make a combination of 100. Like, there's probably 20 different combinations of teams that can make the SEC championship right now. It's crazy. It really is, and that's what we have created by taking divisions away in the SEC. So it's going to be a phenomenal race to the end, Zach. It really is. With that being said, I think we need to hit a quick break. We'll come back and hit the few comments that we have here, and then we'll wrap the show up with a quick playoff picture right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
Right back at it here in the Tigers Avenue to wrap things up with a final segment here with the playoff picture. Zach, we got a couple comments in here.
Oh, yeah. Michael Bowen said LSU got lucky. Tell me you're salty without telling me you're salty.
Love you, Mike. Appreciate you being in here.
Just kidding.
Mike is known for his sarcasm. So, but he's definitely taking a jab at
Todd Townsend says, "What's up?" He says, "Honky Badger."
Honky Badger.
Truth. Yeah, I love it. I've seen that here recently. You had Honey Badger. Now you got Honky Badger. The Honky Badger.
He is the truth.
I don't know if Witt's honky.
I don't know.
He might be a little honky. And he
Georgia.
might be a little street.
From Georgia. The boys from Louisiana are rubbing off on him.
You got a honky town.
All right. So, Zach, playoff picture. Buddy, man, this is tough. This is tough. Dude, I think there's a lot of Big Ten teams that can make it in. There's a lot of Big Ten teams that I think can make it in. This is going to be crazy, Zach. I mean, 12-team playoff means there's a lot more teams involved, which I'm all for. Right now, Zach, I'm going to say my top four. I guess that's where we can start, Zach. We can both give our top four, and then we'll go from there. I think my top four, I'm going to go number 1 overall seed, Oregon. I'm going to go number 2 overall seed, Georgia. 3 overall, I'm going Clemson. 4 overall, I said Kansas State. I think I want to go Iowa State now. That's my top 4 seeds as of right now. Oregon, Georgia, Clemson, Iowa State. That's where I'm at right now. Iowa State / Kansas State. I can't decide right there.
What about Indiana, my guy?
I'm on their side, but they haven't been truly tested yet. Truly tested. I want to see. I want to see what they look like against Ohio State. If they knock off Ohio State, buddy, we're gonna find out. Zach, what's your top 4?
I'm going number 1 overall seed, Oregon.
Yep.
Number 2 overall seed, Georgia. Number 3 overall seed, Indiana.
Okay.
Number 4 overall seed, Clemson.
Okay. I like it.
And I think LSU is in there.
Wait. Did you say Oregon is 1?
Oregon is 1.
Well, Indiana can't be 4. They're Big Ten.
You're right, because they'd have to play each other.
It's got to be a Big 12.
Yeah.
Because it's the conference champions.
No, you're right. I don't know what I was thinking. No, Oregon 1, 2, Georgia, 3, Clemson. I think 4 is Kansas State. And then I do think Indiana makes it, but I think they're going to be not the 4 seed. I should have clarified that.
Yeah.
Indiana, I think, will probably be like 6 or 7, maybe.
Really?
Maybe 8 or 9.
That's what I would think.
Somewhere in there. 6, 7, 8, or 9. And I think LSU, is very likely to be in that range as well. I do.
Okay.
I don't know, Reagan. It's kind of like we talked about last time. Like, there's just so much still left to be played.
So much.
Like maybe in 2 weeks. Maybe in 2 weeks we'll have a lot better kind of idea. But even then, I don't know. You still got a lot left to be played for.
I mean, 5. The 5. It's hard. I'm gonna say Ohio State's 5 with 1 loss.
Yeah, Ohio State's definitely in there.
Well, maybe it won't be 1 loss. They could be playing Oregon again.
See, I'm still getting used to all the new conferences.
They could be playing. Ohio State could be playing Oregon again with 2 losses.
I'm still getting used to all these new conferences, bro.
Yeah,
crazy.
Tough. I'm gonna say, because how does that play out with conference champion? You feel like 5 would be a runner-up in a conference championship, but then again, if they're a runner-up, that means you have to add a loss. So does the committee hurt them? You know what I mean? Is it a benefit not to play in the conference championship if you get hurt for losing, seeding wise, right? Because let's say LSU goes 11-1, then they add another loss to their resume in the SEC championship. Is that going to affect them seeding wise? Because if LSU's 11-1 and they're only another loss would be to Georgia, bro, they better be 5 or 6.
Yeah. Well, hey, let me ask you this. Because you said the 4 seed you think would be. What'd you say? You said Iowa State, right?
Yeah.
I said Kansas State. Are we both not buying the BYU hype?
No, not at all. Frauds.
7-0,
No.
number 11 in the country.
Bro, they should have lost to Oklahoma State the other night. They had to pull off a miracle in their own stadium to beat them
I'm just
on
saying.
Friday night.
I'm just saying, buddy.
No, BYU, no.
Frauds.
Fraudulent.
Yeah, I don't know. The Big Ten, gosh, you got
Big Ten could get Oregon,
Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon. You got Penn
State.
State. Yeah, you got a lot of options from the Big Ten. Who comes out on top? I do think Oregon's going to be a top seed. Who could be another Big Ten team that squeaks in? Could it be in Indiana? Could it be like if Indiana just loses? If Indiana wins out, I mean they're going to be playing Oregon in the Big Ten championship, and then
I would say that would put
they're going to be in because if they lose to Oregon in the Big Ten championship, that's their one loss. Like they're going to be in, and I kind of think that Indiana can beat Ohio State at the big not at the big house, but at the Horseshoe. I do.
I agree.
So,
I think the only 2 teams from the ACC is Clemson and Miami. I think that's it there.
Yeah.
I think Miami may squeak in at like 10 or 11, maybe 9.
Yeah. Miami, their luck has to run out eventually.
I agree. I think it runs out the conference championship, though. The ACC is just not that strong. It's just not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. I mean, neither is the 12.
The other question is, does the SEC get 3 teams in?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. So you're going to have the SEC champion, you're going to have the SEC champion runner-up, and then you're going to have another at-large.
I mean, I think. Let's see.
Like I think you very easily could have LSU, Georgia, Texas.
Yeah.
All in. So like it kind of makes you wonder, do you want to go to the SEC championship game?
I mean, it's either LSU gets a second loss in the regular season or LSU gets a loss in the SEC championship. I'd rather the second loss come in the SEC championship.
Yeah, that's true.
You're in.
Yeah. You're in for sure.
I don't. But then again, if you lose one in the regular season, you win out still, and you only have one SEC loss, you could still find yourself in the SEC championship. If you win that, you could be 11-2 as a 1 or 2 seed.
Yeah, which is crazy.
I mean, could you imagine hosting a playoff game in Tiger Stadium?
Yeah. We got a comment here. I don't know if Lucian has been in here before, but Lucian, we're glad you've joined us. Love your profile pic with the boot there on the profile pic. He said this A&M game is the game that's going to make us or break us. I think the Ole Miss game was the game that was going to make us or break us. But I get what you're saying, Lucian, if that makes sense. I get where you're going. Like the game against A&M is going to make or break like your SEC championship potential, I think. Because if you lose this game, it's going to be very hard to surpass, either A&M or Texas and Georgia. Like one of those. It's going to be. I think if you lose this game to Texas A&M, you're going to see a SEC championship of either A&M, Texas, Georgia, maybe throw in Tennessee there, Reagan.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're potentially looking at. Like if you lose this game, the likelihood of you making the SEC championship is not really good. You win this game, the likelihood of you making the SEC championship is massive. But I don't think this makes or breaks you as far as like your season and your potential to make the playoffs, because you still could very well get an at-large bid. And I think LSU would get an at-large bid over Tennessee. You know, because if you have if you lose to Texas A&M, let's just say you lose to Texas A&M, you know, and then Texas A&M beats Texas or Texas beats A&M, and let's say Georgia wins it all in the SEC championship. Georgia would go to be one of the top 4 seeds. You'd have Texas or Texas A&M. That you would have to go up against. As far as making an at-large
if
bid.
Georgia wins it all, that means Tennessee would have lost another game.
So then, yeah, you're definitely getting over Tennessee. So then you're arguing whether or not you're getting in over Texas or Texas A&M. So if you lose to Texas A&M, you really want to root for them the rest of the way, which sucks because you would want to hope that they would get in over, then LSU, it'd be LSU or Texas getting in, and then obviously Texas, their losses would be to A&M, who would be in the SEC championship, and to Georgia, who is in the SEC championship, and your losses would be to just Texas A&M, right? So then you would technically you'd both have 2 losses, but Texas would have losses to Georgia and A&M, and you would have losses to A&M and USC.
I still think LSU, the SEC, could get 4 teams in. By the way,
we'll see. That's gonna be tough. You'd probably be if you do, you're like an 11 seed.
I think Big Ten, SEC could get 8 teams. That leaves 4 spots. I think 2 from the ACC, Miami, Clemson, and 2 from the Big 12. I really think that's feasible.
Well, you've got the group of 5.
Oh, that's true. That is true. I think
it's gonna be tough.
It would be tough. I think LSU. I mean, that would be a little SEC bias. That would be tough, but you'd be putting LSU in over a conference champion runner-up, probably from the Big 12 or from the SEC. That would be if you put LSU in at that point with 2 losses and no conference championship, then you're putting them in over probably either like an Iowa State, Kansas State, or a Miami.
Yeah,
that is tough to justify. But
that's tough, very tough.
But LSU would have wins over top 10 Ole Miss and Alabama.
Yeah.
So that would be the loss to A&M. So, anyways.
So really, I mean, there is going to be a lot riding on this game this weekend, which we will obviously preview this upcoming Thursday. Ray, anything else before we get out of here?
I think that's it for me. But yeah, man, be here Thursday. It's a huge game. I mean, because of LSU doing what they did on Saturday against Arkansas, this game, if you win it, can set you up so well for the postseason. You got to take care of business, though, in Kyle Field. We'll see you next time here in the Tigers Avenue Show to discuss Texas A&M at Kyle Field at night this coming weekend. We'll see you there. 5-star here. Take us out. Peace.
Who that 5-star?